So when you play any piece and you come across parts where you're making mistakes or you're slipping on the notes or there's pausing, you have to ask yourself, what is the reason why I'm making these mistakes? And it always boils down to, I think, two things. It's number one, you mentally don't really know quite yet what to play. And later it gets better, of course, because we practice it and then we memorize it so we know exactly what's coming next. Or number two, you physically just, your fingers just cannot play it, whether it's your own hands or it's the way you're playing, and it's just stuck in a position where you're not able to play that part. So first, the visual part. If you don't know what to play next, you have to do it hand separately first. You have to do it slowly, because you'll notice when you play it slowly, then you always play it accurately, because then you're able to kind of slow it down for your brain and you know what's coming next. But when you do know it and you want to play it fast and you want to practice it fast, this is what I meant by playing in chunks. For example, the later one. Since you know what the notes are now, and then make sure you know what's coming next, the next chord. So that, and then physically you want your hand to be able to play that part. So kind of visually imagine what the next chord will look like. Oh, it doesn't show in the camera. So if you start like this, and then the next one, you'll notice your hand is like this for the first one, but maybe the next one, it will be a little bit more. Then you need to, in your brain, imagine it first before you play it. Then drill that part slowly in sections. And then imagine it's going to change. It's not going to look the same as this. Because if you kept your hand the same, then you would make a mistake. And then imagine what the next chord will be like. And in order for number two, the physical part, in order for you to be able to play it physically, then you have to make sure your hands are very flexible. You can't keep it in one position for too long, because it has to be kind of be able to go in any shape at once to be able to get that note physically. So make sure it's very flexible enough that you can do that. For the other part. So you know what the chord is going to come up next. I know you probably see it in sections like this. Right? But if you notice, if you keep your hand like this too long, then when you get to this C, it's broken and you can't really. So you have to imagine that your hand kind of folds in first, then it unfolds. So imagine that motion first before you practice it. Then you can use different rhythms and accents. And then the harder one is when you, always when you have your thumb underneath, you want to practice it. And then maybe you just want to practice. Because this is the uncomfortable part. Always look for the uncomfortable parts. So you have to imagine the fold and practice that a lot. And when you come back up to the... So always keep it flexible and practice the sections where you're folding over. Wherever feels uncomfortable, you want to drill that part. Where's another part? These, of course, coming from this to this, you want to practice a lot. And then coming back down. not just playing a surfacey because you're kind of anticipating what's coming next. It's just going to give you tension. So relax on every single note. Here too, I noticed that I felt myself kind of slipping right here because this is very uncomfortable. So you have to kind of prepare in your mind. You're already thinking, oh, I have to do this. You're not adjusting when you get there, in other words. And then I'm imagining what my hand looks like for the next one. It's going to look kind of like the 3 and the 2 are closer. Here. No, 4 and 3, sorry. So imagining what it feels like before you played. This one you just have to drill and practice. Anytime you have a scale passage, the most uncomfortable part, this is not uncomfortable at all for us. This is not uncomfortable. This is not uncomfortable. What's most uncomfortable is when we have our thumb underneath. Because we're not used to having it. And everything else is so close and we can blend it, but we can never blend these. So you want to practice the parts where your thumb goes underneath. For example, them. That part. And always, of course, imagine what it feels like before you get there. And keep it flexible. And then the other one that comes up right there. There's another one. So look for the parts where your thumb goes underneath. And then when you practice it together, you also want to do that trill practice. Whatever the notes are. But make sure you always sink down, you're very flexible, and then you always know what the shape of whatever you're going to play is. Let me know if you have any more questions. I hope that helped.